Good evening, everyone, and welcome to BT's the 2nd of January. I'll have to relearn how to punch all the buttons so I can get it right. But anyway, tonight, the 2nd of January, we're going to do a worm and a May. And we'll do some floating options a little bit later in the weekly tip. But Gretchen is going to start the program tonight with a fly that looks kind of like that. That's a LaFontaine Bead Head Marabou Worm. And it's a really difficult fly to tie. It takes quite a bit of time to do so. But anyway, let me get back here. I am going to show you, it was in Gary's book, Trout Flies, Proven Patterns. And those of you that have got it, it's on page 85. And I'm going to go to the page that actually has the step-by-steps. Okay, here we go. And as you can see right there, are the various steps. It's all line drawings. And Gretchen's going to talk about when you put the foam on and all that type of stuff. But his did not have a bead head. That's why the bead head came along later. But this was published in the 80s, and it was the early 90s when the bead head craze hit the U.S. And later in our book, we published the bead-headed Bead-Headed Marabou Worm, and that's our variation right there, and in the vise. And you're going to learn all about that now from Gretchen, as I suppose you're ready to go to the recipe, maybe?
Sure.
Oh, okay, there you are.
So we're going to be tying it today on a 2X size 6 dry fly hook, and you have the option of putting wire on it or a bead. You can do without either, or you can put them both on. Tonight I'm just going to tie it with the bead, but no wire. Thread, your choice based on what color of marabou you're using. Rib can be the wire, of course. Tail, flotation foam. We generally tie it with foam. It changes how it acts in the water. I suppose you could tie this without the bead or the foam on it. The tail is marabou, the body's marabou, and the collar is thread. So basically what we've got is a fly made with a foam, one piece of marabou and a bead. So it's pretty simple.
Don't forget the foam, that's a really important part.
Yeah. So let's get started over here at the materials. You can see I've got the stuff laid out. We have gone ahead and put some beads on hooks already, because you've seen me do that often enough. We'll talk about it a little bit when we get over there. And we've also got it started with the foam. Now the foam, do we have some of the foam that isn't cut?
I don't have any. No, I can grab the packets of foam.
Yeah, let's show that. So you're going to see several different things, but what I'm tying, what that foam is on mine, is some stuff that we got. Let's see, on the internet, and it's just that long foam.
About an eighth of an inch or something like, maybe it's a quarter of an inch.
And it's a fly tying foam, so you can go on the internet, and when you ask for fly tying foam, that'll come up.
Is that 2 millimeter foam, Gretchen?
3.
3? Okay.
Okay, there's your material back.
Okay.
So let's get started. As you can see, we've got a hook in the vise with a bead already on it. Now, one of the reasons I went ahead and put the bead on it is because I have trouble working Al's vise. And so what I normally do is turn it up so the hook is point up, and I put the bead on, then I take it out and put it in. So, and you just have to be sure on these beads, there's a small hole and a large hole, and the small hole you put on first so it goes up against the eye. So we'll just start the base wrap. And I'm not too fussy about this base wrap because it really doesn't seem to matter that much. Need to grab my scissors. Put down the glasses so I can see. Now I'm going to tie this in right at the end of the shank. So right here, although I've pinched the barb, is where the throat is. And that when that hangs down, that's right where the shank starts, right at the curve. Okay. What we have done with that foam is solid, but you take probably a warm bodkin and stick in there and leave it in there a little bit so it gets wide. And then you can clean off the end of your marabou and stick it through. And then we'll pull it down. And do it with a,
Pulls down a little tight, doesn't it?
well, it should be. And what you want now is I want this tail part to be the length of the shank. So I got a little ways further. And that will be glued in too. You don't want to just leave it this way. Now then we want to tie it in, and the section from the bead to where I tie it in is going to be a shank length too, so we can measure it. Set it on here. Oh, something I discovered today too, and I forgot to do that. This stuff gets in the way. So I'm going to take it down by the trash bin and cut it off. It serves no purpose other than frustrating me. There we go. All right, let's measure that again. Set it in place, hold it towards me and slightly off of the hook. And now one of the things you want to do is, as you take several wraps, you don't want to start moving forward because that messes up how you wrap the marabou. Still have some of those things that are kind of annoying me. So just the wraps should be right on top of each other, and then I'm going to come this way and wrap forward. I want to leave my thread hanging right behind the bead. Now, one of the things I discovered today is if you wrap it flat like this, it doesn't look as good as if I intentionally try to get it kind of so the flat is this way and it's narrower where I'm wrapping, and that allows it to fuzz up better. See, it wants to turn on me here. There we go. Doesn't necessarily want to do that, but it's fuzzing up pretty good. Okay. Now I will trim this off and then kind of work it in. And trim it off. Now at this point, I'm going to take my brush and fuzz it a little bit. That just makes it look good. Just fuzz it up a little bit. And then I should be gluing it. And I won't do that today because I don't want to mess with the camera, but that's all there is to it. And you can tie a bunch of those in quick order. And according to what Gary said in his writings, he fished it, I think he said 3 summers. And in all those 3 summers, the biggest fish he caught that year, he caught on this particular fly. And I don't know if it was a bead head. No, it wouldn't have been a bead head. It would have
No,
been without a
no.
bead head. So that's any questions?
I was gonna warn you and say that don't blink or go get a cup of coffee because it'll be done by the time you get back.
Gretchen, this is Kathy Hamilton. I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you do anything to glue that little ring of foam?
Yes. At this point, normally I would just take my glue and just touch it right there gently
Okay,
and glue it on.
got it.
I'm not
Thank
gonna
you.
do that because of the camera and I'm, Al loves his cameras.
Oh, yeah. It's a quarter of a cent drop of glue on a $500 camera is not a smart move. So,
So you could also, if you wanted to set those up, you could go ahead and put the bead on or the foam and glue it and just let it sit and then tie the fly. Or you can tie the fly and then glue it, whichever way you want. Now, Gary, if you read in Gary's book, what he did is he took a piece of foam, the fly was tied without the foam on it. And then he would take a piece of foam and make a slit in it and then pull the marabou down into it and then glue the bead shut. But we found it's faster and more economical to do it this way.
and when we get done here, we're gonna go straight to the weekly tip. And that's where we're gonna talk about constructing the foam, various types of foam and how you do it.
Yeah, we tried a whole bunch of different things and we'll go to the 5 Mile bar pool and see how they react in the water.
That's where we're going next
So
is
you're heading to the pool?
I'm headed to the pool. We gotta do some moving around here, folks. And I'll have to move the camera over to the pool so that we can take a look at that.
I kind of feel guilty. That was such an easy.
Yeah, let you off this time. Okay, now. I am going to switch over to the materials camera, and then the materials camera is the one that's on a jib arm, and I'm just going to take it over to the tank. Now there's 2 of them constructed with larger foam that does not allow the fly to sink. And they'll just hang there forever. And it's a really great way to fish a fly. And the way I like to do it is you don't just yank on it, but you know how you can take your rod tip and just kind of shake it and put a quiver down your line? Can't believe what that does to the fly. And it can be very good. I won't say this is my #1 fly, but boy, there have been days when if we wouldn't have had it, we wouldn't have had anything. But what I want to do now, though.
Seems to have the that's another thing. It seems to work really good after a rainstorm when the water's kind of
Yep.
off color. That was another thing that Gary noticed as he fished it a lot, and I think you did too on the Yellowstone video.
I have too, and I fished this some in the 80s. It was not a bead head, but after meeting Gary, I learned a little bit about it. And meeting him on the river and everything, and it was with lead in the body. Did the same thing. What I'm going to show you right now is worked incredibly well a few times. And first off, let's get back to the vise. And here's the fly that I have rigged up right now, and it's on a piece of monofilament, and I'm going to drop it in the water. I want you to notice, though, the size of the foam on this one and the one in the vise is very small. That means the buoyancy is limited. If you'll go the other direction though, you'll notice that those are some pretty good sized pieces of foam. And that's why they are floating, head down, tail up.
You could also increase the length of the foam if you want a little more flotation.
Tons of things that you can do. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop this fly in the water, and we're going to see what happens when it goes straight to the bottom. Let me see, I got to get it all wet and everything, but. And can you see it on screen there?
Yeah.
And what you'll notice now is the exact opposite of what's happening to the other two. Let me kind of move them together a little bit here. Is that it's on the bottom with its nose on the bottom and tail sticking up. Now, what do you think happens when the fish sees this? And then the currents are down there and everything. And let me tell you what, those minuscule movements, if you will, are thoroughly amazing. Anyway,
What does it do in a current? Can you turn a current on?
if I turn the current, this current is so crazy in this tank that,
No.
it's a waste of time to try to do that. It's not going to work. Let me set that aside. Get my materials over there to the materials area. And bring the camera from the tank back to the materials area.
That looks good.
Got it? Okay, good. I have a hard time seeing it here for
Yeah,
some reason.
looks good.
All right. That's back now. We want to get back to right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a minute now and to show you some options on the foam, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that less buoyancy in the tail and more in the head causes the fly to go to the bottom with the tail sticking up. If there's a whole lot of buoyancy in that foam on the tail, the lead in the head doesn't do anything but turn it upside down. As you can well see when you saw those flies in the tank, 2 on the surface, 1 on the bottom. Yeah, it's your job to figure out how much weight and how much buoyancy do I need to add to my patterns to make it do what I want it to do in my fishing situation. And I highly recommend you have them in your box that are marked in some way so you know that they're headed for the surface, and you want to do that because I'll tell you what, I have switched one day. I was on the Coeur d'Alene River in North Idaho fishing the worm and doing absolutely nothing on the bottom. And I just went to one of the others that didn't have as much lead in it and a bigger piece of foam. It was on the surface. And I drifted it just like I was drifting caddisflies or anything like that. I don't know what it was about that particular day. Fish went totally nuts over it.
Do you remember what color marabou you were using?
A black?
A black?
Yeah. But anyway, that's fishing stories. You can tell fishing stories. I'm into my 80s, so I've got at least 70 years worth of fishing stories, and even some of them are true. But we're not going to get into that tonight.
Mostly true.
Mostly true. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to take this fly out of the vise and set it aside. And that's just a piece of foam right there with an identical piece of foam that Gretchen had on hers.
Well, that's glued, isn't it?
I don't think so. Nope, it's not. I left it undone on purpose in case somebody wanted to see how it goes together. Well, anyway, you take that long strip of round foam, and I'm going to see if I can hold this with a tweezers so you can see the hole without me dropping everything. I did drop it. Can you see the hole there, Richie? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, and I've taken a bodkin and heated it just slightly, and then dropped the bead into the trash. Now, what I did though tonight before we started the program is I took as much of the trash out of the trash bin as I could. Now I've already cleaned the waste off the end of my marabou, because you will never see a piece of marabou with the end that clean if you haven't stripped it that way. And then you just slide it onto the feather. And I'll flip it over here so I can. And it needs to go in, and you just have to decide how close to the end that you want it. By the way, you notice that spreads out like a fly tail. Kind Does that give you any ideas? It should. Notice how how that's shaped like a fish right here and right here. Just, that isn't what we're doing tonight, but you should be letting your mind go crazy. Anyway, so much for that. And then you would just drop, what I do is I'll take and drop the glue right here where my bodkin is pointed. And then it's there, it's exposed, and I'll just pull another 1/16 of an inch so I cover it up, and then that glues it. But again, we're not doing that on camera. Now here is something I want to introduce you to, a product. What I used back in the day is this. Now, any of you in the construction trades will recognize this. It's the slang is backer rod, but it's actually foam caulk. And we've got the
Camera's falling.
the camera has, let's get it back over here. No, here.
Husband does not like that.
There we go.
There.
There we go. We've been waving it too doggone much, but anyway, that's called foam, a polyfoam caulk. And what you do with this stuff in the construction industry, we use it a lot when I was working with these brothers building houses around windows. You'd install a new window, and then you would take and fill in any cracks with this stuff. And you just kind of press it in with a screwdriver or a little putty knife kind of a thing. And it worked well for that. It also is good around concrete. Some in several colors, and this obviously is a concrete color.
I use it. Shall I show what I use it for?
Go ahead.
I make my son has a window tinting business, and you have to be really careful about getting moisture down into the electronics. And so I make a cover for the dashboard, and that I put in the top of it so I can stuff it down in.
Yep.
To protect the dashboard. Just another thing you can use it for.
Well, a whole lot of things. But anyway, what I'm going to do right now is just take a pair of scissors and cut off a chunk of this foam so we can then move it over to the vise. You want to grab that so I can cut it? Okay, hold that up so they can see it. There you go. Good, good, good. Now I'm going to put this away. And there's another thing that works really well that I think is going to work really well. And that is these, at the craft store, these foam round balls of styrofoam. And I've got some mounted already. And one of the things in the tank that's hanging there in the water is one of the round styrofoams. And that's just another thing that you can try if you want. Almost all the flies I've done are with backer rod from the construction industry. But let's get back over to the vise. I want you to notice that there's quite a difference between this piece of backer rod that I'm holding in my fingers right here and what you see under it. This is one of the things that I really, really like about the backer rod flies is, let me reach over here into the tank and take one of these wet ones out. I'll just lay it there on my pant leg for a minute and dry it out. And here's one that I tied out of the full piece of backer rod. Now, what do you think the difference between that piece and that piece is? It's called a pair of scissors, and it's on the water. Pair of scissors, or even your nippers if they're big enough to do the clipping. But anyway, I carry small scissors in my vest, and this fly is what's called a convertible fly. Scott Sanchez in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, is the one that coined the phrase and was really great for tying convertible patterns. And I coined that phrase, and that's what you can do. You can do that on the water. If you can see you have too much flotation for what you want to have happening, take some of it off. And there's the difference. So that's what I wanted you to see there. Now here is one that I did with the styrofoam ball. And then that's just another one there down with the backer rod trimmed just a little bit finer. And again, they're going to float different in the current based on how much weight on the head and how much flotation you've got in the tail. Just a different, you know what I think it is, and we've often talked about this. It's the orientation of sometimes you just got to show the fish something they haven't seen before. They get pretty used to a leader out there with some crazy looking thing on the end of it. This is probably going to be something that will be at least a new motion in the water for them.
And I think the reason you started using the backer rod was because that's what was available to you. So we were talking about how do we come up with things? Sometimes it's out of just need, desperation.
And it was living in North Idaho. It's a fly fishing mecca with the nearest fly shop about 100 and some miles away. And it isn't that way now, but when I lived there, it was. And if I wanted foam, I either could order it from somebody and wait a week or so, or I could go down and get something at the hardware store and make it work.
Well, and how did you know that they even had it?
Didn't even know it. Didn't know it existed. It just that's why I use it now. I'll tell you something else, and we'll get into this in a future presentation. That backer rod comes in 1/4 inch, half, 3/4, and 1 inch, depending on what you want to do with it. I'll tell you what, if you want to tie a bass popper, you take some of that 3/4 or some of the 1 inch stuff and trim it up and then cinch it in place with some thread, paint it up. You've got some of the absolute nicest popper heads you'll ever see. And this huge popper head, it'll have some air, it'll capture some air and make your casting a little bit crazy. But it is just so super lightweight, you can't believe it. It just dances on the water. Anyway, any questions before I go now into the program?
Yeah, Al, have you tried coloring that stuff with Sharpies?
Yeah, I have. And the Sharpie usually washes off after, several passes through the water, half an hour later, whatever. And I have to be honest with you, the gray backer rod has never seemed to be a problem for me.
Okay.
Yeah, the color doesn't seem to be significant.
I don't think so. I'm guessing on that. Excuse me, folks.
I don't know what Char used for colors. Do you, when she was tying for Gary?
I don't know. He may have been, he might have been providing the material so that he could get exactly what he wanted. Anyway, moving into tonight's fly, let's go to the vise. And this is what we're going to be tying. It's called the Muddle May. And it's a fly that I developed in '85. And it took 10 years of work to get it to come out just the way I wanted it. And a lot of that problem that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to really go into the weeds on tying this fly, is the amount of material, the length of material, and the positioning of the material are all critical to how this fly lands on the water. Does it land on its nose? And that was my problem for probably 3-4 years. Just if I didn't give the fly a little snap right at the end of the cast before it settled on the water, it would always land on its nose. And yeah, I could give it a tug and straighten it up. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I didn't want that to happen. Well, in time I learned, and as we construct this fly, I'm going to explain the critical points and what you do with the materials and how you work with them. Because one of the things I want you to notice right here is, see how those wings are nice and tight up against the hackle? Dream on, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. For right now, though, I'm going to get this out of the vise. No, for right now, I'll go to the recipe first. The Muddle May is a dry hook, and it can be anything from an 8 to a 22, and I've never tied it smaller than a 22. And I've got to be honest with you, the 18, 20, and 22, you don't spin the head like I'm going to do. You just kind of flare a bundle of hair in place. That's all you've got room for. The thread is going to be gray or choice, and that just depends. I'm going to be tying a gray body one tonight with gray hackle. But if I were going to be doing a PMD creamy colored one, I wouldn't be using gray thread. I'd be using an appropriate color to go with the dubbing, probably a tan or something like that. The tail is going to be moose hair, and when I tie really light bodied ones, I have some moose hair that I bleached, so it's kind of a medium brownish color. After you bleach the black out, it's about a medium brownish. Rib is optional. I'm not going to mess with one tonight, but I've done them. Customers have asked for them. And the legs and collar, they're going to be deer or elk hair. The one that I have in the vise right now has got elk hair. I'll be doing deer hair just so you can see both. It really makes no difference. The wings are Wonder Wings, and these will be looped style Wonder Wings. We'll talk about that a little bit as we work our way into it. The body is gray dubbing, but it could be yarn, and it could be any color that you want, or any material that you want, as long as it makes the body the way you want it. And the head is going to be elk or deer hair spun and trimmed. Now let's get a look over here at the materials. And I've just got a mess here, so I'll just get some of this out of the way. I got the scissors, I'll get that out of the way. And my thread gray, I'll just set that over at the vise. And for right now, I need a hair stacker. I'll set that over at the vise. And I think I'll start with a new hook in the vise. First, I'll get this one out, set it aside. And I got another hook, and I'm tying it in a size 12 tonight. But I typically, for the ones that I tie and fish myself, it's usually 14s, 16s, and 18s. And I've done them a little smaller than 18, but it's pretty difficult. And you'll see why here in just a moment. Now let me switch and get
My favorite of this is a 16. I just think it really looks great. It's a good looking fly.
Yeah, it sure does. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my thread base about, I'm going to put it about 2 eye widths back from the hook eye. And then I'm just going to wrap to the end of the shank. And I'll get right to the end of that shank right there and stop for a second. Trim the thread. And then I'm going to take one more turn back there to tuck that little piece under. And then I'm just going to come back forward about halfway to the center of the area that I call the body. And the body is this section from here to here. Now I'm going to get over here to the materials area and get some mousse for the tail. And this was one of the first problems that I dealt with in figuring out how to get this fly balanced so it would land on the water consistently the way I wanted it. First off, let me grab this by the very, very tips. And what I want to do is get rid of the stuff that sticks up, the shorty stuff, and the fuzz. Now I'm going to get out over my waste basket to clean that out. Clear away from the camera. Yeah, okay, good, it's gone. So when I come back, you can see that I pretty well got that all cleaned out. And I'm going to put this into my hair stacker. Now, one of the things that I really want with this pattern is that I wanted a very sparse tail. And it took me a while to figure out, well, a very sparse tail changes the weight that's on that hook. And that was part of the problem, is I had too many materials to the front, not enough to the back. But I still wanted that sparse tail. Well, I want you to notice I'm getting rid of quite a bit of this, getting this down to a small amount. I think I'll get rid of some more. But now if I put a regular length tail in there, I've cut the weight that I had in the balancing of the fly. I've probably cut it by, at least 50, maybe more %. And so what you need to do is, if you want to compensate for that, is instead of doing a shank length tail, you want to do one that's longer that will help balance it out. And I found that it's about the full hook and just a tiny bit more works pretty good. I want you to notice that I set that down on my side of the hook, and just a loose loop around, take another one, and now I'll just, with tight wraps, let thread torque place it up on top. I don't like the way this one fiber is laying, so I'm going to get rid of it.
We talked about that for a while, but it was really obvious on this one that as you went back, the wraps got looser. That kept the tail from flaring.
Yep.
I thought that's just.
Thanks for pointing that out, Gretchen. Yeah, it's a,
We don't talk about that online.
we haven't, if you look real careful here, you can see that it's not as thick here as it is here, and that's because I've got what I call in our books and writing, we refer to these as tight anchor wraps, and these are snug and snugger or not so snug depending on where they are, but they're holding wraps, anchor holding, and you don't put the same pressure on it depending on what you want the material to do. We want this material to stay on top of the hook. You can readily see right off the bat that right there where my pointer is, that stuff is really cinched in place. This other is placed holding wraps to control its flare. Otherwise, it would puff out too much, and we don't want that to happen. So anyway, I want you to notice I'm almost all the way back to my starting point, and we've talked about this in the past, and that's material creep. And material creep is caused by the bulk of your material. And back over here at the materials area, I'm going to get some deer hair. And deer hair, for the biggest part, if it's from the same part of the animal as the elk, tends to take up a little bit more space. Now I'll get over here. And I've got a whole lot more than I need. I've got a really big bunch. Now, first off, I got a couple of really long wild ones here. I'll just get rid of them. I'm going to get it right out on the very tips so that I can get rid of all this junk sticking up here.
Well, there is a lot of junk.
And there's a bit there. And I want to get out over my bin to do that. Must have done a good job with the static guard, because it's I was having just a fit this afternoon. I shouldn't have said anything. It's sticking to me like crazy now. Let me get that into the hair stacker, and I got to spray myself down. All right, I'll just set that aside for a moment, and I'll come back here, and I'll get my static guard out and spray me down. I'll sit away from you, Gretchen. Get over here to the materials area, and we're just going to spray down all that stuff. All right. Now let's get back and stack this hair. And I'll turn it tips forward because that's the way it's going to go on the hook. And I've got more here than I want. That's on purpose, because I want to get rid of, first off, you can see that there's some shorties in there. Well, I'll get rid of the shorties by grabbing a hold of the very base end of the longest ones, and then just getting rid of the shorties, just by quickly moving my finger around. Well, I'm going to go back out over the waste bin to take care of that. Because one of the things that's really difficult to control on this pattern is the shorties have a different consistency than the longies. And that's caused by the level of maturity. The longer hair fibers are more mature, and therefore they react differently to the hook or to the thread torque. And the shorter ones flare a lot because they're immature and just kind of getting their place in life. But anyway, let me take one more turn there, get it close. And now I've already reduced that bundle by about 40%. And now what I want is about the same amount of hair as if I were going to tie the wings on a gray wolf or something like that. So I'm going to get rid of some of this because I've still got too much, and that's just about what I want. Now I'm going to tie on my, I call this hackle, collar, whatever you want to call it, it's fine. I want it to be about as long as the hook. And I'll tie it in right there. Just gently put it around there, and I'm going to really cinch into that. You see how that flares up there? And you can see I really got some tight wraps in there. Well, let me see just how much room I've got, because I want to trim this at a very severe angle so I can blend together the hackle hair and the tail. And I got a little bit right there. I'll get rid of it. Now I'm just going to wrap over that and bind it in place. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm getting ready to add my wings, but before I do that, I want to make sure, now that slipped back just a little bit on me, and I've got a little bit more space up there than I wanted. Well, these are extra long hair fibers, and I'm just going to slip up here, put some snug wraps on there, not tight, but now I'll tighten them up, and I'll grab that and just tighten that up, and that'll move my bundle of hair forward slightly, which is what I wanted to have happen. Right there is about right. That gives me 2 eye widths of bare hook in front of the hackle. Now I want you to notice that I'm wrapping back for my anchor point for the wings. And you say, but Al, on this fly, the wings are right at the hackle. Well, they're not. I'm going to pull this forward here and see if you can see that there's a space between the hackle
Down further.
anyway. There's a space there between the hackle and the wing, and that was what took me the better part of a couple of years of how
To put some more weight towards the back.
it is. It moves the weight of the wings from this position right here tight against the hackle, where I put it for a couple of years and really struggled with the dang thing, still once in a while falling on the nose. And I found that it looked identical to anybody if you move the wings back, about 1 eye width. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go ahead and tie on some wings, get over here to my materials area. Let's see, what did I do with those wings? Okay. I've got pheasant body, and I got these right here. I think I'll just do some colored wing. This is now the Wonder Wing was originally tied, as it was taught to me anyway, in Europe. You would tie the stem down just like this, so that where my fingers are holding that all together, that would be tied to the hook. And it makes a beautiful wing with one problem. That stem going down the center of the wing is stiff enough at a 90-degree angle to the hook shank that you're going to end up with one terribly twisted leader. It didn't take Gretchen and I long to figure out that we wanted to get rid of that stem where it joined the hook shank. Well, at first we would just reach in with our scissors and cut it out. And it would also every now and then you mess up a flies. But in time we learned that we really needed to identify how much feather we wanted to sweep back. And if you'll notice, I've got a couple of stems there with the feathers already swept back. And that length of that stem is less than the hook shank.
3/4 is.
And what I never want to go over more than about a little over half. This is just right about half. Yeah, I don't want to get into the 3/4, gets too you'll have it causing you problems. The stiff part of the stem is too close to the shank. Now I just sweep that back like that. And the next thing I learned in tying these is, well, okay, you always tie your wing on to length, right? Well, you try tying that on there and not twisting those fibers over each other where you just have the fiber and no stem. What we learned though in time was that the way to tie these wings on was to tie them on real short with the stem and then the fibers and everything. And you notice it flopped on its side there. Don't worry about it. It'll straighten out. Now, when I pull to the right, holding on to the fibers with my left, it will pull out to whatever length I want it to. And then I'll just tighten up there. And now we'll get rid of the waist. I was a little bit concerned about that particular feather. That's a great feather for a 14 or a 16 or an 18. This 12 though, it just about wasn't long enough. But I made it. Now I want you to notice that the difference. That's just about perfect. It's one eye width back from the hackle. When you get the fly done, it's tough to see that spacing. And I don't think the fish have ever noticed it, but it lands on the water a lot better. And I'll just leave it at that. Now I'm going to spread these apart. And I'm just going to crisscross between them. And what that does is just gets the wing set the way I want. And then I'm going to trim off the waist. And I'll put that in my clip because that's not waste. That's future flies. And I've got a couple of fibers here that need to be trimmed out. Looking good. Yep, that's just about the way I wanted it to look. And I hope they didn't sneak forward on me. Nope, they're still there where I want them. Good. So now the next thing we're going to do is I am going to put dubbing on the body. I thought there was another fiber there, wing fiber. Yep, there is. Let me get them. Good. Now I'll get over here and get my dubbing and my dubbing wax. And move back over here. And I'll start by getting out a little bundle of this soft touch. Just don't need the whole package out on the tying table. I just grab a little bunch of it here, just so I got something to hold in my hands. And I'll get my wax. And we'll wax the thread, making sure I don't have any big globs of wax on the thread. I just want the thread to be sticky, not globby. I got one there that just doesn't want to get off. There we go. Got rid of that one. Now I'll have to get some more sticky back on that one. All right, now I'll take the dubbing and just kind of fluff it along the sticky thread until I get it up to about the way I want it there. Okay. I'll just get this towards the back of the hook and get my dubbing started right there at the end of the shank. It's a lot easier. I find it a lot easier to wrap around those wings if I flip them down and get them out of my line of sight. Now, I probably was just me kidding myself, but anyway. Now, I want you to notice that I filled in that area between the wings and the hackle. Dub it right up to there. Now I'm going to push the hackle back. And I want you to notice that I want to make sure that that distribution across the hook is consistent. I don't have a whole bunch more in one area than the other because that's going to really show itself when I start to do the last part. My hackle won't lay right. Fly won't lay right. Okay, now I pull that back and I'm gonna wrap a cone of thread tied up against that, and we're gonna talk about that. Because that's an important feature that we use in the last part of the fly. Now, see that cone, and it kind of pushes everything back? Now I want my thread to be hanging right at the front end of that cone. And it looks like it's hanging there pretty good. I'm going to slip over to the materials area and get some deer hair. That's the elk hair that I used before, so I'll use deer hair this time. And I'm going to get a pretty good bundle because I'm going to be spinning a fairly small head, and I want to be able to have hair that all reacts under the pressure of thread torque the same. So I'll get rid of the trash and the shorties so that at least the hair I'm working with, it flares consistently. It makes it a lot easier to make a good looking head. Anyway, so you can see I'm going to get rid of this junk here, so I'll be right back in a minute. Get out over the waste bin. Okay, I got way more here than I need, but that's okay. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to get ready to spin this, and there's a spinning this, and the way you lay the hair, I learned makes a heck of a difference in how difficult or not difficult it is to trim the last part of the head, which is tied up against the hackle. Now, one of the things I also want you to remember is right here. Remember this cone of thread right there? That's very important. We're going to get to that in just a minute. My thread is hanging at the front end of that. Going to lay the hair in here just at an angle. Now I want you to notice that I've got it pulled just straight back right now. I'm going to pull this to the side away from me and cut off the waste extra in my left hand. And I can just toss that away now. And what I'm going to do is just kind of grab that bundle and start to spin it into place. Now I'm going to stand that up, and as I stand it up, I'll kind of work through that bundle, just setting that all into place. It's taken a little bit of experience, but I've learned to select the amount of hair so that I can get that one spin and fill in the head area. Of course, on 18, 20, 22, that gets pretty small. Now I'm going to take a trick that I learned from Jan Abben in the Netherlands on putting a half inch up here and pushing that hair back. It's kind of giving me troubles right there at the hook eye. Well, see how that's starting to push that back and clear up the area around the hook eye. Now whip finish. And another one. All right, there we go. Now I'll just cut that off. And before we go any further, thought I'd probably better check and see if there's any questions up to this point. Because from here on, I'm just going to be trimming the head, but we have some questions that we need to worry about, or is it just okay, well, let's get back to the vise. Let's get back to the vise here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to try to trim the head flat along the bottom. All right, good. Get that. Make that as clean as I can. And right here on the bottom, there's some kind of stray ones. I want those to kind of even up, and I'll just come in at a 90-degree angle to get those. All right, now it's time to start shaping the head. And I found the easiest way. Let's see, can you see what my thumb's not in the way, is it? Okay, good. I'm just gonna start trimming at an angle where the scissor blades are slightly closer to the hook at the front than they are at the back, so that I get a backwards taper on my trimmed head. Now, one of the reasons that I trimmed the hair so close, should have get rid of some of these wild fibers here. Okay, so close to this when I spun it, as you can see right there, that's just laying right back against that hackle. It's a lot easier to work with than some long hairs that are intermingled with these here. Keep the shorties so you know what you're going to have to deal with. Now I got some stuff right here I want to trim up. Now, remember that cone under here that we were talking about? Well, here's something that took me several years to figure out. Up until then, I was accidentally reaching back and in and cutting some of my hackle, and I didn't want that to happen. Well, so let's see, they can see, okay, good, you've got it just right, Gretchen. If you take the scissor points, and if I go straight back like this, I'm going to cut the hackle. But if I tilt down like this, the scissor points will cross over that space created by the cone and the hair that's in front of it, like that. And if you get the scissors a little too close to the hackle, most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, the closing scissor points just push the hackle back. And for those that I just can't quite get to, if you lay the scissors in and push the hackle back and then come forward, the shorter ones in front are easy to identify and take care of. And anyway, I've got one wild fiber right there. It looks worse on the camera than it does here in person. I had to look twice to find the dang thing. Anyway, there we are. Any questions on the Muddle May?
Not a question, but I think it's a really lovely fly, Al. I really like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's caught me a lot of fish, but I'm going to be honest with you. The dirty rat's my number one dry fly, and why is that? Because I can tie it in about 45 seconds when I'm really in a hurry, and it catches fish awful good. Where this one, it's really great in some difficult places, but it's also not quite so easy to tie.
Have it in a riffle.
Oh, it's fantastic for that.
It really flows.
It's very good, and it's kind of like a cork. If you keep it greased up, it's pretty tough to sink it. Anyway,
So we do have some questions going back, and somebody want to know what kind of cement we use on that backer rod.
kind of
Is
see
it
that.
ba-
Oh, I used seemed to work pretty good. Is this mercury adhesive? Get up closer here.
So does that work on the styrofoam, Al? I'm not sure.
The styrofoam, I had some trouble with that. I finally went to the Healthy Hoof that Dutch Bachman turned us on to, and used that on the styrofoam, and it worked a lot better. But that, I think this is CA glue that's in that mercury adhesive, and it kind of tended to eat the styrofoam for breakfast.
Right.
More questions there, Craig?
is
Al,
deer
I don't
hair
have-
better for
I don't have-
spinning? Well, somebody want to know if deer hair is better for spinning than elk.
Deer hair and elk hair spin differently. I wouldn't say one is better than the other, as long as it's a spinning type hair, which is from the rib of the animal. I don't, depends on what I want, what color I want it to be, is basically the reason I do it. But they do spin a little bit different
And you chose the deer for the color on this one?
for the color, yeah. Yep.
If you notice, the elk that he had was a lighter color.
Now, let me get that one back up here. Why don't you pop that up there and I'll get the,
To the vise.
yeah, go to the vise and I'll bring the elk one up next to the deer one. The deer one right now, you saw it happen. And, anyway, that's
Difference in color.
the difference in color. Hackle's a little bit lighter. The head's a little bit lighter. I used a little bit lighter dubbing, but it could have been cream dubbing and made a PMD. I mean, I have a different wing. It's a pheasant body feather rather than a hen cape feather.
Dennis says you use the term grease the fly.
Called fly float.
Yeah, just, and what do you use?
My own.
Yeah, we bake it.
We make it and sell it. We never did get a good client base in the U.S. It just was difficult, so we pretty much stopped that. But it hit pretty good in Europe, and we distributed it all throughout Europe until about 2 years ago. We just
We told them
we're kind of retiring, if you want to know the truth.
it's really nasty stuff too.
Yeah, it's a pain in the neck to do. But anyway, Gorky's Gink was good back in the day when I was buying the stuff. I also used to go to the drugstore and get what the heck is that stuff called? Aboline, not Alboline, but Aboline. And it was a women's facial moisturizer, and God, that's some good fly floating. Okay, folks, it's that time in the tonight's program when we're going to go to sharing, where we learn from you, and of course, we also share with all of you. But let's get back here. And one of the things that I wanted to start with, and I'm going to start out tonight myself with a couple of things. Well, first off, I fell in love with Joel Evans fly tying tools last week. Not the tools so much. I mean, a tool's a tool, a scissors is a scissors as long as it cuts. But I fell in love with this folding hair stacker that you can see on the bottom left.
Yeah.
And they're stone fly tying tools, but you got to order them from the UK. I spent about a half an hour doing every kind of Google search I could here in the US trying to find them. And you're going to have to go to the UK to get them. Unless Joel knows a contact that we don't know about. But anyway, I thought that folding stacker was just so doggone cool. I probably won't get one, but anyway, it's pretty neat.
Here's Gretchen's.
Jesus, that looks awful
That
good.
looks good, yeah.
Isn't it though? Yeah. Her Marabou came out better than yours.
Thanks.
I'm gonna bite it.
Of course it did.
I disagree with you. I think it looks just almost exactly the same.
I know. And here's Al's.
Wow.
This one was harder to do.
It's that looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna bite that one too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Evelyn, you get better every week.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I wanted to start off the year with a giveaway. I've with some of my hooks that I've reworked, a bodkin, and some stickers I've designed. There's 5 different giveaways that you can enter. You can enter, and you can. It's just on Facebook, and you can just make a comment on which ones you want to enter. You can enter in 1 or up to 5, depending on what you want. The stickers range from like classic salmon flies to some steelhead. And then we have also some pretty big hooks. And one of them this is a custom made bodkin that I made. And it has the traditional Japan finish. And they hold up pretty well. The Japan finish with a lot of use comes off a little bit, but they work pretty well. And then another one with a couple barbless hooks as well. So if you're interested, please go on and sign up. If you're not on Facebook, you can send me a note and still enter as well.
Anyway, I just put Garren's hyperlink to that place on his Facebook page. So it's on the chat if you want to go in and get that going now. Garren, thank you so much for that offer, and thank you for being here. I appreciate it. you're spotlighted. Go ahead.
Okay, let me, there we go. Now can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. Let me,
There you go.
I don't have enough light on them. Let me get some more light here.
Well, that was pretty good, Jeff.
Now they're,
Get it back in the center there. There you go. Now that's
Okay.
some type of body material. Where'd you get that?
okay, I got that at the Dollar Tree. It's actually, the inside is baccarat, and that's that stuff that you put your fingers in, and finger locks.
Oh yeah.
It's in different colors, and I cut them to lengths. There we go. And I shaped the backer rod just a little bit, and I think you can see it right next to the orange.
I can.
It's kind of minnow shaped a little bit. And I pre-make those things and make them in gold and silver, and that one's gold. Let's see here. Here we go. Whoops, still upside down.
That's all right. We get the idea, Jeff.
There it
We get
is.
the idea. Yep.
And the tails are made out of monocord, different colors. Not monocord.
Macrame?
Macrame. Yes, it's a kind of like a cord, and you can take a brush, a cat brush or something like that, and brush through it.
Funny cord.
Yes, there we go. And that's and then cut it to length, and that's what the tails are made out of and it's a floating fish or a minnow. You can change the body style and make the poppers with that Christmas tree tubing with the backer rod inside of it.
It's the backer rod. Remember, I've shown this before. If you twist your backer rod, you can make a noodle. And as you twist segments, you can actually create different body shapes. And depending upon how you twist it, you don't even need to cut it. Remember, then you just clip the ends and then you tie it in. You don't need any glue at all.
Yep. Thank you, Bill.
All right. I just want to remind everybody that Tuesday the 6th, we are starting the 2026 portion of the Fly Tie-In Techniques program, and our speaker will be Al, and he will be talking about wings, wonder wings, and so on and so forth. So you're all invited. If you don't have, get the invitation through either FFI or myself, let me know, and I will get you the link, and we'll go from there. But it should be a real good session. As we know, Al is always excellent.
After you showed those scissors a couple of months ago that somebody had sent you, you know these?
Yeah.
Okay. I got to looking for them and I found them here in the U.S. I believe it's called the Red's Fly Shop out in either Oregon or Washington. And so I ordered me a pair.
Good for you. I see you got them.
Yeah, I've had them a couple 6 weeks, I guess. But anyway, they're pretty pricey, but I liked them, so I ordered them.
They sure do a good job.
Well, I was looking at that Marabou worm that Gretchen tied, and it reminded me, see, I'm from central Indiana, so everything out here is warm water fly fishing. We take a lot of the stuff conventional guys fish with and convert them, figure out how can we get flies to do the same thing. And there's a guy, Charlie Brewer, back in 1978, wrote a really nice book called On Slider Fishing. And all of it has to do with taking back in the day when not hard plastic, soft plastic worms and stuff were getting popular. and fishing them similar to what that worm fly did in the tank, where it's just sitting on the bottom, but the tail's floating. So when you just bounce it along or you just slide it along the bottom, gives it just the slightest action to it. And it's a killer technique for fishing. So, but it's a really good book if anybody is interested in warm water circles and doing some tying for warm water stuff. Charlie Brewer, and the book is titled On Slider Fishing.
On Slider Fishing. I remember that book from, boy, that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. And I also would like to just let everybody know that we are delighted that Ian will be joining us downstream a few weeks. He's joining the Fly Tying Friday, and we'll be delighted to have you with us.
Thank you.
That's it for tonight, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. See you next time. In fact, next time will be Mike Kelly tying some streamers. Thank you now.